Dear women in STEM, it's so great to have this opportunity to speak with you. My name is Lillian Judy, and I'm so happy to have you with me today. The Dear Women in STEM podcast is a diary-style podcast designed to help women in STEM navigate the field. But not only that, it's a love letter to all the women in STEM who have ever been told that they're not good enough, they don't belong, or even those who just feel like they don't fit in. With your help, I'm going to answer common questions, offer support and guidance to you, and just really have a good kiki with you all as I share transparent stories and experiences with you. So buckle up and let's begin. Sincerely, Lillian Judy. Dear women in STEM, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and put yourself out there. The only thing standing between you and your next big opportunity is you. This is how I landed my second internship experience. I went up to a professor at the time and asked him if he knew anyone that was working at a specific company. And he mentioned, he had a former student of his that was working there. He put me in contact with her, and the rest is history. This is how easy it can be. So put yourself out there, ask the right questions, and don't be afraid. Let me just start off this episode by saying a huge thank you to everyone that has listened to the podcast. Honestly, I call this podcast the little engine that could, because I'm doing this by myself. I'm recording by myself, editing by myself, marketing by myself, and literally just doing everything by myself. And yes, I love doing that, but I think I was, imposter syndrome kind of creeped in somewhere along the line. And I was really nervous about what this was going to be and how people were really going to receive it. But I must say that the numbers have surpassed anything that I expected, honestly. I don't know what I expected, but you guys, I love you guys. Thank you so much for sharing, for listening, for supporting, for commenting, just everything. So thank you guys so much. It means so much to me. Life is really full of trials. You go through one trial, you think it's done, and then another one pops up, and then another one pops up, and it's like a constant cycle of trials that you go through. You know how I ended the last episode talking about how, I succeeded, I graduated with my associates in science and engineering science degree from the community college. I got the standing ovation and all that fun stuff. So then I transferred to UMass Lowell to pursue plastics engineering. And if you don't know about how I ended up getting into plastics engineering, you can check out my YouTube channel, Lillian Judy. And I kind of detail how I stumbled into plastics engineering there. So coming off of the high from the community college, I thought everything was going to be smooth sailing. It was just going to be a breeze pursuing this plastics engineering degree, but no, life is never that easy. I remember my very first co-op job that I got. It was for a packaging company, right? And it was in a totally different town. At the time, I wasn't driving. International student, I was still not... I hadn't fully transitioned or fully adjusted to the American life per se. So the job came with relocation, so they kind of paid part of the rent for me. So I had to move to this new town, which was I think 40 minutes from where I lived. And I had to still pay part of the rent at this new place. And I was still paying rent at my old apartment that I stayed at during the school year. And this was a huge cost to me. I remember there were times in the week where I would be so broke. I wouldn't have food to eat. I would literally just be living off of noodles. But, it was a sacrifice that I needed to do or experience, honestly, because I think, one, I did need the work experience because as an international student, the odds are against you. So you just need to kind of stack up everything you can whilst you can, And so it was a really trying time, honestly. And I think that was my first taste of what the engineering industry looks like, because I was the only woman, I think, literally in the whole engineering of that company, of the packaging company. I was literally the only woman there. And it was very tough. It was very tough for me to adjust. I kind of recoiled, and I would shy away from, being confident and putting myself out there and asking all these questions and all that. I would just, sit there and wait for them to bring the tasks to me. Meanwhile, I was also doing this co-op with another guy who had come from New York, and we were the two co-ops at that point in time. And he would always, be proactive, always going to ask for questions, ask for work to do, ask for things to work on. And I'm always just like kind of sitting there like, oh, they haven't told me what else to do, And I think I was just very intimidated, and I found myself very lonely during that time. I was physically away from my friends and family, and I was in this new town that I didn't know. Like, I didn't even know where to get groceries. It was just a lot. But I think I needed to experience that to kind of toughen me up for the future, honestly, because I kind of grew a lot from that experience, even though my time there wasn't the best experience, I think. But afterwards, I was able to learn a thing or two. And I remember at the very end of my co-op, I would I would kind of do like a debrief session with my manager. And one of the things that he said to me was, when you interviewed, you were very, very confident. And I was very excited to have that, that person show up to this co-op. But when you started, you were a completely different person. And what changed, And I was I was really broken when I was hearing that. I was like, wow, I didn't even know this is what you thought of me, when I interviewed. And that was what really stood out to me throughout this entire co-op experience. It was like, okay, you need to be confident. Like, regardless of whatever the situation is, you need to really be strong and be confident. And this kind of translated into my second experience, which I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this episode. I was able to ask one of my professors for help in trying to secure an internship, and he ended up knowing the person that worked there. And for me, it was really a huge learning opportunity for me, because I was like, wow, so how many opportunities have passed me by because I wasn't bold or brave enough to just ask the question. I think that's what this episode is really about, for you to find the strength and find the courage and boldness within you to do the thing that scares you the most. I think most times we tend to shy away from doing certain things because we're scared, or because we overthink or overanalyze the situation and assume that this is exactly what it's going to be, when you don't even know what the person's response is going to be. You don't know what the outcome is going to be, So I really want to encourage you today to really put yourself out there. Okay, so let's go back to school, because I just want to find out, am I the only one that took a class more than once? Like, there are certain classes that I took more than once. Like, I remember I took organic chemistry twice, right? And I think the first one, I remember sitting in the class and I was like, what exactly is going on? Like, I felt so lost. I didn't understand a word that was coming out of the woman's mouth. And every week we had like a quiz, and everybody in the, I think 60% of the people in the class were always struggling, trying to figure out like, yo, what's happening in this class? And then, so I ended up dropping the class, and the next semester I took it again. And I just see the same people in the class with me. I'm like, yo, y'all dropped the class too? Like, and they're like, yeah, we just didn't get it. And the second time around, it was still tough, but I think, I was more determined to push through, and I was more aware of, even though I didn't really understand what was going on the first time, I think I kind of had an idea of what things were about because I'd heard it once. And so the second time around, it's like, oh, that's what that was, And another class I took twice was differential equations. I remember the first time I took the class, it was like a very full class, and the professor was just like rambling, and I was like, I don't know, I just I don't even know at this point. Like, I just felt so confused. Like, what's the tea? Like, what's going on? And I did have friends who were taking the class with me, and I found myself like always working with them, and us doing homework together and tests and stuff like that. But then I realized that, wait, I took the hardest professor, like, for differential equations. Like, there was an easier professor that I could have taken the class with, and because I guess I signed up late or something, I ended up with this guy. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna be played, so let me just drop this class and then let's figure differential equations out next semester. The next semester I took the class, like, this professor was so easy. Oh my gosh, like, he was so easy. Like, everything was just, I don't know, it was just so different. It was just a breeze. I was like, why did it sound like gibberish last semester? Like, what was really happening? And I think most of the time when, it kind of looks negative to the world, like when you take a class more than once, right? Because it's like, oh, is it that you're not good enough? Like, what's really going on? Blah, 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 whatever. And for me, I started seeing it as, taking the class the second time helps me build resilience, right? And honestly, in the professional world, nobody cares how many times you took a class. Like, that's just the fact. Nobody is going to sit there and ask you, oh, so did you take Calc 3 in 2016, 2017, 2018, or like, did you just take it once? Like, nobody really cares. Like, everybody's just trying to get the work done, right? And so I realized that the resilience that you build in retaking classes actually is the skill that helps you out in the professional world. When you're running a test that keeps failing and you need to keep pushing through, that resilience kicks in so you don't just give up. So honestly, every experience counts. And let me just fast forward to the end, because after this whole roller coaster experience of me being an international student coming to America for the first time, failing classes, starting over again in a completely different state, completely different school, just everything was just different. When I finally got that form signed that I have been approved for graduation, when I finally received my degree in hand, I remember looking at it, and the first thing I did was take a picture and send an email to my dad, because my parents were the number one people that I feel I disappointed the most when I had failed the first time. They were like, I saw my parents cry. I saw my parents like very emotional and, very disappointed in me. And I think that was the biggest, like the most painful part of this whole experience, like the feeling of letting your parents down, right? So I sent it to them, and my dad got back to me and said he was very proud of me. He was going to print it and put it in his office and all that stuff. But then for me personally, when I was looking at that paper, I was like, so is this what all this struggling and the suffering for the past 8 years have been for? Like, this paper? It didn't click to me that at a point I lost track of what I was actually fighting for. I just became focused on, you need to graduate. That the fact that I love what I was doing, that didn't even matter at that point. It's like, it was just more of, girl, just graduate and let everybody just leave you alone, right? But then after some time I looked at it, I was like, wow, I really fought hard for this degree. I really did that thing, and I'm so proud of myself. Like, I could have easily given up. I could have easily gone for the cheaper, easier option, but I kept pushing through. I kept doing it. I kept showing up every single time, regardless of whether I got an F, whether I got a D, whether I got an A. I kept showing up. And I've never said this out to myself before, but Lillian, I'm proud of you. Like, I'm really, really, really proud of you and where you've gotten to, because yes, God helped you. Yes, your family supported you. Yes, your friends supported you, but you still wouldn't have been able to do it if you didn't put it in your head, if you didn't put your mind to doing this, right? So I'm really proud of myself. I know this sounds crazy, like I'm talking to myself, but yeah, sometimes you need to really encourage yourself. So yeah, that's it for this episode, and I hope you guys have learned a thing or two from my journey. As always, thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you for listening, but please leave me a comment. I want to know what you guys think about the first 2 episodes. I want to know if anything stood out to you, if you'd like me to share something specific. I have so many things that I have in store for you guys, so don't even panic. This Dear Woman in STEM episode is dedicated to all the mothers, all the women in STEM mothers who have supported their daughters on their journeys, and those who are even mothers on their journeys. We love you so much, and happy Mother's Day. And as always, like, share, rate, and review. Give us a 5-star rating. And I have one more thing to add. So we have a website. It's www.dearwomaninstem.com, and we have some really cute merch on there, so don't forget to check it out. And follow us on Instagram at Dear Woman in STEM. It's goodbye for now. Until next month, sincerely, Lily and Judy.